Okay, we're recording. So, how did the conical shapes come up for you? Like, what were you doing?
I was just laying in bed, trying to get to. Trying to go to sleep, or was it in the morning? I think it was actually in the morning when it's just kind of. I sleep pretty poorly, so I'm usually just in the morning. I'm usually awake, kind of half and half.
Yeah, and then describe what happened.
It just came up in my vision, on my screen, inner screen, and the one shape was darker. And I just saw like flat triangular shapes just right there, right in the screen, pointing to
Hmm.
each other. And the one was I can't remember what colors they were. I want to say one was maybe a bluish, and the other one was there were two different colors, and one was darker and the other one was brighter,
Hmm.
and they were just almost touching. I mean, just as close as they could be without touching. Barely, one point between them. And then, of course, eventually I tried to pull them together, which I could. I kind of lost a little clarity when I tried doing that, but I was doing it, for a while.
And then what happened? Could you see into the dream fields?
I didn't really get anywhere particular with it. But it's someone I'll continue to work with. I was just kind of surprised to see it came up. I guess the power of suggestion or whatever. But the image came up. It kind of almost surprised me that it came up that clearly.
Yeah, good. And it happened just the once?
Well, I brought it on two other times, intentionally, but this kind of just happened.
The first time it just happened, and the next times you brought it on intentionally. Well, good.
Yeah, and they weren't as clear as the time it spontaneously happened. So.
I don't see the conical shapes so much as I feel the shapes there. So that when I get the conical shapes to interpenetrate, I'm automatically right back in the dream fields. Boom. Yeah, it's like turning on the go switch on the movie projector.
This is like a flat image, almost like two pieces of construction paper. You cut them out and played with.
Yeah, I don't try to visualize them. I just feel for that space. And when you feel movement, when you feel energy, it will move and construct. You will be able to tell the shape that it's taking on, And so I feel the conical shapes. I don't see them. Again, if I tried to visualize them, that would take me away from the other visual fields, the other dream fields, and the purpose for me wanting uh, uh, to be aware of these shapes in the center of the head is to get back into the additional fields, not to visualize the conical shapes, but to get back into the dream fields.
Yeah, well, this was just kind of spontaneous. I didn't even really, the first time at least. So I'll work with it again. I'll try to think of more, not so much a flat shape, but a conical shapes, and try to not really visualize, but just try to feel my way around, I guess.
See if you can feel the center of your head and see if you can feel those shapes there, or whatever else you happen to feel there. I would suggest not trying to feel anything in particular. Just go into that area of yourself and see what you feel.
So this is like an inner screen type thing, which is more or less third eye, but is that what you're mostly talking about, centering sort of in that area, or trying to even work higher to your crown?
Say that again.
So are you more or less trying to work with that just till the third eye center, or are you trying to work with the crown even?
I don't think that it's a center, meaning a chakra, meaning the third eye, Ajna chakra. No, I'm just sort of feeling around the space that is perceptually the center of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot that is connected and connecting with that. You can't go into any one portion of yourself and not find the rest of yourself there. It's all connected, right? And so the whole structure is in play, but that's my sort of 0 point. That's where I go to.
Interesting. Like,
Yeah. It has more to do with what people would call the eighth chakra, the mouth of God, as it's called here at the back of the head, than perhaps the pineal. But it's all connected, it's all included.
I, I had one dream. I don't know if I want to tell you about. It's not that profound. It was more hilarious. Like I remembered the dream when I first woke up, and it was the dream I had after this dream that got me laughing. And then after I started thinking about the dream that got me laughing, I totally forgot about the other dream. The other dream, though, was another one. I'm having all these process dreams I talk about, and even in my daydream, I get in these process dreams a lot. And I had another snippet of that I didn't record. It wasn't really a night dream or daydream. I think I was laying in bed, um, not asleep though. And it was another one of these process dreams I keep talking about, where I'm like doing an assembly or I'm looking at data or something else. It's like I'm working on a project. You know, I never believed in this parallel life stuff, but it's almost like a parallel life thing going on, or just that I'm in another dimension or something else, doing this other project with these other people. And it's like I had this little clip I remembered where I was looking at all these different datas, you know, just reams of different data, and it all made sense to me. You know, it's like I was analyzing all this data and coming to conclusions and stuff, and it's like it was perfectly clear during that time, you know. And I'm functioning, I'm doing all this stuff, and then bam, I'm out of it. But I mean, it's just like, it's like they all stick together. It's like I remember what I've been doing when I'm in there. You know what I mean? It's
I
it's
do. Do
getting
you
kind of weird.
have any information on what the project is?
No, because in this last one, I was looking at a lot of data and coming to conclusions. Or other times I've been working on things that are more or less physical with other people, like in a little cottage industry, you know, where we're all at a table or something, you know, assembling stuff for some big thing, which might be kind of a refuge dream, because I've had jobs where I worked like that, you know, where I had a job way back 30 years ago or more where I built power amps, you know, and it's a small crew in a basement of a house, you know, built these 800 watt power amps. And so I have worked in situations kind of like that, you know, so it's kind of hard to say what's what, you know.
Consider this. Consider this. And I think what you're meaning is daily residue. Yeah.
Boy, I can't say that.
Dreams. Right. So when a consciousness thinks that it is simply existing in a physical reality and that there is no other reality, anything aside from that physical reality is a hallucination or dream, etc., illusion, flight of fancy. This person, when they go into their dream state, upon waking and remembering any dreams, will consider all of that residue from their daily life. But in reality, reality doesn't happen from the outside in. It doesn't happen from the physical towards spirit. It happens from the inside out, always from spirit to physical. So consider that it's what you're doing in the non-physical realms that is bleeding off into your physical reality and not the other way around. So
Yeah.
what if, here's a question I'll just ask you, what if it's what you're doing in those other fields that's bleeding through here into this one as you working at tables and constructing things like that? What if you're doing it there first and it's just simply bleeding through into here? What if that is your sort of rehearsal or template for what you're going to be doing here and not the other way around?
And of course, when you try to make the transition back to bring it to your waking self, your mind is going to be grasping for straws at what it's seeing anyway. So it's going to close things in what's familiar sometimes. So there's probably some artifacts of that going on too.
Sure. Just the attempt to recall. Your mind will go for those things that are most familiar. Yes, first. Yeah. So you'll probably only be bringing back a portion, a fraction.
It's been probably 5 or 7 years or more. Reese Jones did 2 or 3 videos in a row on challenging the non-reality of dreams, whether dreams are real or not, and I don't know exactly how he put it, how that reality is any less real than this reality, basically. And, when I'm in that reality, that's how it is. I know everything that's going on. And like, this is the dream and that's the reality, So I know it's kind of how it is for him too, though. A really excellent series. Probably the best videos I think he ever did with those 3, like 2 or 3
Both
videos.
dreams, both realities. Those words are synonymous for one another.
Yeah.
What we call reality is a dream. Another word for which is illusion. Vision, visual field. If it's a visual field, it's a dream. What we call reality is a dream. And that is true in all of the visual fields, all the dream fields. No one is any more real or less real than any other. When you go to the grocery store, is that any more or less real than when you're at your house? It's another visual field. It's just, it's just another visual environment. There's no one visual environment that's any more or less real than any other visual environment.
I don't know. Yeah. Big stores are weird.
But there are various types of visual environments in which the frequencies dictate what occur in the fields. And so, in the earth life field, in the physical field, we can't do things like walk through walls or float up into the air, fly without an airplane, things like this, where in other fields we very much can. Does that mean they're not real? No, it means more can happen there. Or let's say action can happen there in ways that it can't happen here.
Yeah. And it's also the point of view, when you look at the dream world and it looks so crazy and broken up and scattered, but then when you're over there and you look at this world, it looks kind of the same way.
Right? It's like, how did this lead to this and this? How did I get here? Yeah. One of the most intriguing questions that anyone can ask themselves when in physical space, when in the earth life field, is how did I get here? When we want to come lucid in a dream, that's the first question you stop and ask. Okay, how did I just get to where I am? What was I doing just before I got here? It won't be there, and the field will begin to shift because your consciousness shift. Yeah.
Making me think of
and
talking
let me just finish that whole concept. Before you got here to the earth life, where were you? Just let it seep in. That's a break in continuity. And that break in continuity is how we in physical space generally determine a reality from a dream. Here there's a continuity. Yesterday was Tuesday. This is what I was doing. I clearly remember, and then I went to sleep and I woke up and now it's Wednesday. There's continuity. But in the other fields, there's not the same continuity because there's a simultaneity of everything, and you can go anywhere from any point to any other point. Whereas in physical space, in linearity, we don't. So in linearity, we're accustomed to that sense of continuity. One moment that follows the next, one day that follows the next, one month that follows the next, and on and on. So ask, before you got here to the earth life, where were you? Nobody knows, you see. It's not there. There's a break in continuity. That in itself should inform you you're in a dream field.
Hmm. Well,
But people don't stop to think and ask.
well, I remember being about 4 years old. We had just moved to our house. I barely remember, because I was really young. We moved when I was about 4. And I remember, being set up in my bedroom there and just wondering, what am I doing here? Why, what is all this? Why am I here? What is,
It happens to me a lot. Even you just saying that is giving me goosebumps because that's been happening a lot for me this week. I just find myself in a room doing whatever I'm doing, inwardly asking, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Yeah, and there isn't the knowing, another break in continuity. Yeah, that's another way a break in continuity can be experienced, right? All of this should be informing us. We're in a dream field. What we call reality is a dream.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get sick or hurt or something, and it's all too real.
A dream isn't unreal.
That's true.
A dream is a construction, a creation. Dream does not mean unreal to those who have walked the dream fields consciously. Once you do, there's no more dichotomy, there's no more opposite. Reality being real and dream being unreal. False, fake, just a product of your imagination. There's no more of that once you walk consciously in dream fields. And for many people who aren't able to bring the dream fields into their conscious daily state of awareness, one of the most immaculate ways in which they can practice is in the earth life. And the only visual field you have access to, this one. Begin investigating it. Explore it beyond what you have in ways such as what we are suggesting here. If there's any break in continuity, and the break in continuity is what allows us to discern a dream field from what we now call a reality field, then investigate. See if there are any breaks in continuity. There are many. And then it's all you have to do is let that impact your awareness long enough for a change to take place, for a new realization to begin to rise in you. And as you do, you'll notice that the visual field begins to change. It begins to feel more dreamlike. It is like kerpow. When I do this, yeah, every hair on my body stands up. It becomes very electric. Super fun is the energy that makes that happen. And then I begin to, see the pixelation of the field. I'll begin to see the particles that are composing what we call physical objects, that are composing the space in which the physical objects are appearing. It'll begin to feel as though I have no weight to myself, as though I'm levitating sort of here on a sofa. The way I experience my body touching the parts of the sofa, that it is will start to be very different, very permeable. And things will come into the visual field that aren't normally there. So it takes very little to bring this on. Focus is all that's needed. And so developing your point of focus is your first course of action. Putting your attention with something, with an object, a single object, one thing, or one thought, or one energy, one of anything, and leaving it there for a period of time. Because when you do that, the experience changes. The experience you're having changes. The experience, the way in which you experience yourself is beginning to alter, and in a very stunning and surprising way, very fun way, very enlivening way. Yeah, for me anyway. So have you ever, while you are in your earth life field, looked around and attempted to become truly lucid? Truly lucid that you are in a dream.
Well, all I can say is about probably 3 months ago, for about a month, I just felt buzzy. I just felt floaty, everywhere. 'Cause I was in a pretty high state for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got in a minor auto accident, and that kind of
Mm.
shook me out of it. I kind of had to deal with all that crap, and then just all the crap of moving and everything else, so I've kind of weighing me down. So I've kind of put a minor pause on, but that's another subject.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Have you ever tried to perform daily activity while in a different brainwave state?
oh yeah, I used to, my old, when I was working, my job involved a lot of driving and some,
Ah,
and some pretty rote stuff too, once in a while, some pretty rote stuff. It also involved a lot of complex thinking and analyzing data and all that too. But times like when I was driving a distance on a familiar road, I would be usually using a short mantra, the whole time.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Driving in itself is an automatic shift in brainwaves.
usually in a long period
uh,
like that, I'll be doing some kind of short mantra internally. Or
very easily go into theta while you're just driving, especially distance driving, where there's wide open terrain, big sky.
hopefully not quite into theta, but down there, yeah.
Oh, no, I've done it many times. Yeah, driven for hours and sort of come back into beta at the end of the ride, having no idea how I just got
It's almost scary sometimes.
one city to another city. Not scary to me whatsoever.
I've been driving hours for a time, and then I kind of wake up and, well, where the hell am I?
It's not a
Where am I
physical
along
field.
this trip?
It's not a physical field. Your conscious mind does not need to be there. There is not really continuity. The sense of continuity is given to us through a data stream, but it's not really there. You're not driving from one city to another city is an illusion. The space in between was an illusion. Um, and so you don't need to be afraid when these things happen. You'll be re-given the context, the stream, you know, when you come back into beta. Do you ever experience loss of time? Beings were on the out of body experience topic.
Uh, well, time certainly seems to be flying lately, but not specifically.
No.
Not like I lost 4 hours or something, and
Right before I first started consciously going out of body, this was fascinating. There was 2 days in a row where I had a complete loss of time. This was uh, was always aware of my dream state, top of the night to bottom of the night, top of the morning. I was always aware. I had my continuity never broke. Um, and for 2 days in a row, there was nothing. I laid down to go to sleep, and the next morning, it was morning and I was waking up. Nothing in between. That had never happened to me before. And it happened 2 days in a row. And I am like, whoa. Is this what it's like to be everybody else? What is this? Is that how it is for you when you don't have any dream recall? When is it like you go to bed at night and the next minute it's morning and you're waking up, or is there some sense of time in which you feel rested? Which one is it for you? How is it for you when there's no dream recall?
Oh, I know what I've done all night. I know I've dreamt all night. I just can't quite grab them.
Okay, so there is a sense of time flow.
Yeah, and there's a sense of I know I was dreaming, and I know I was not dreaming. I know I was awake in bed for hours, in the middle of the night, laying around. I know that other times I was laying in bed, dreaming. Um, it's just not.
So then let me be clear. You go to bed, and then when you wake up, it's not as though it's in the very next moment. There is a sense of time flow between and a sense of knowing that you were dreaming, but you just can't grasp the content. Okay, so
I'm usually semi-lucid in all my dreams, even if I don't recall them. I'm semi-lucid in them.
these 2 nights, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no sense of time flow. There was no sense of having been in the dream fields, nothing. 1 minute I laid down, and literally the next minute, that was the first one. Literally the next minute, it was morning and I was waking up.
Uh,
And then the next day, it was like a 5 minute. Um, it felt like 5 minutes had gone by and it was morning and I was waking up. And that led into my conscious OBEs. So, yeah,
I mean,
that these
unless
two,
you were just super dog dead tired those 2 days.
it had never happened in my entire life. And at this point, I'm 44 years old. So I'm not a young tyke, you know. Yeah, I had never experienced anything like that quite before. That was absolute missing time.
Wow. You don't think it was an abduction or anything crazy, do you? Or
Yes, I do.
no?
Yeah, missing time almost always is. Yeah.
But you've got no recall of it at all, or
No, not yet. I've never gone in for the data. And when we say abduction, let's change that to contact. Yes. Yes, those were contact episodes. And again, that led into my conscious OBEs, 4 years straight, near every day, 4 years straight. That's what the two events that occurred the day before. So no experiences of missing time whatsoever during your driving and driving long distances. You never, went into a dreamlike state while you were driving and, didn't couldn't really put the pieces together of how you just got from one place to another place.
well, I mean that stuff happens, but not like a big chunk of missing time. It's just I'm kind of daydreaming in my thoughts and driving, and in automatic sort of, and I've definitely had times though where after driving for 40 minutes or something, I've and in my own lost in my own mind, I suddenly wait, damn, where am I? Am I still on course or am I off course, or where in my trip am I? I mean, just totally.
But you couldn't remember the space in between. Is that accurate? Or you could?
uh, Not like it was missing, not like it was 1 minute gone, not like a missing chunk of time.
No, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is if you remember the space in between the last time you were aware and this now time that you're now aware again.
Yeah, I knew I was, daydreaming.
Right. But do you remember the physical space you were driving through? Could you remember how you just got from one place to the other place?
Well, not completely, because that's why I'm confused. It's like
Yeah. And what happens in that?
it's just my focus is totally off my driving, and my driving is going on automatically, and I'm just not paying attention. I'm too lost in my own thoughts.
Hmm.
Uh, Suddenly, I start to wonder: Am I on course? What am I doing here anyway?
I've never wondered that because when I'm aware again, I'm aware I'm supposed to be. But yeah, when I'm driving long distance, that happens a lot. I can go away very easily when I'm driving distances. And I have no fear of doing it. A lot of people have a fear of doing it while they're quote driving or something, and I'm not. I know it's a dream field. There is no real continuity. The sense of continuity always is fed to us in a data stream. Yeah. Where do those data streams come from? And those dialogues are fascinating. They help connect you with your own connecting points. And they help you see reality in new ways, ways in which you might not have taken the time to stop and cognize yet. Wow, that's a thought I actually have. I wasn't even aware that, that was even there. So you bring out portions of yourself in ways that, you usually don't. But most people aren't willing to do it. For fear they're going to sound funny or, uneducated or whatever. But it's the point isn't to know. The point is just to see what's there when the question's asked. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that's been kind of grabbing my fancy anyway, in terms of all this is, trying to get out of the astral plane into the mental plane, basically. And what I've seen of that through my daydreaming experiences is the clearness of the mental. In other words, it's like not looking at a view screen, the inner screen, and watching your dreams or hypnagogic imagery. It's these daydreams are clear, they're not on the view screen, but there's still an imagery there, even though it's not something I can grab like off a view screen. With my astral senses, it's like beyond that. It's in the mental realm. So it's like a whole different realm that's invisible, not only to my physical, but invisible to my astral self too. It's beyond that. It's a clear world, it doesn't show on the screen. And it's kind of it's a challenge, because how are you going to explore that world when it's clear, but clearly you can, because when you're thinking like that, you do get imagery of a sort. It's so strange, it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
What you experience on the astral, where things are more concrete. They're not really concrete, but they're there, and
they are when you're there.
Yeah.
They're very physical. They're very concrete. And so 4D, you still cannot walk through walls.
The astral, I can.
5D, they're not really walking through walls either, although technologies exist by which you can and things like that. And so, yes, 4, 5, and 60 or 60 is a little more so. That is where you're entering the territory where, as you're graduating through it, you may be able to, permeate walls and what other people are conceiving of as physical objects.
And a lot of what you can and can't do in the astral is all in your head as to what you think you can and can't do.
Yeah, same here.
I've never clearly walked through a wall, but when I needed to get through a wall, I just put my back to it and kind of fuzz out, and I pop right through, So it's just a different way of imaging that process of going through the wall, where other people probably would have no trouble just walking right through it. Where
it depends on if you're
there.
there.
Got the tool of putting my back to it and fuzzing through it,
If you're there in point consciousness without a body, you can pass through anything easily. Most people don't look down at themselves to see if they're point consciousness or embodied. They just feel that they are because they, in their earth life field, they always are. And so they assume that they are. But most people, when they're in those fields, especially to begin with, when they're passing through things and doing extraordinary feats, they're there in point consciousness. They haven't embodied themselves there yet. When you embody yourself in those other fields, they're very physical. And yeah, it'll be more challenging you can get it to the point where you can go through, but you really have to focus and you really have to want to.
Well, you have to believe it too. You have to
want to. You have to want to. Yeah.
It's not only want, though. It's about beliefs, because if you believe you can't do something in the astral, you can't.
If you carry your beliefs there, I'm going to say I'm not someone who carries beliefs. I carry curiosity in its stead. Yes. And so I will go ahead and believe you about beliefs. Hi, James. We've missed you and Raw, but we're having a really interesting talk here. This has been fun. Yeah, I've been hoping that one of the times that you come into this room, we could go into daydreaming because it's a fascinating topic. Yeah.
It's like a whole different realm. It's the mental realm, and it's clear. It's us trying to recap a little bit. It's a clear reality rather than a very bright, colorful reality like the astral is. Kind of just like their physical. You don't, it'll fool you. But when you're in the, I don't know, it's just so different. And it's intimidating in a way to, how am I going to explore a clearer world, Well, of course, when you're there, you get plenty of imagery, but it's different. It's not like being in the physical or the astral where everything is seemingly.
It's the difference between knowing and seeing. So you can know, for instance, that Anton is a man without seeing him. But seeing the visual appearance of the man is a very different experience than the knowing of that. The knowing of it isn't a visual thing. And yet the experience is still fully there. And yeah, that's what the mental field is like. So you're in your awareness field there. And awareness, again, is not a visual field.
And I don't know where these process of daydreams fall in, if they're, what level they're falling in exactly. It's just, like the last snippet I had, I was just so there, and I just so understood everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. And I understood the continuity of what I'd been doing the last month, on this project, and it was all together, and I was all managing all this data, and boom, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I get called in for, almost like I get called in as a consultant or something, it's.
Are you curious about the content of those experiences at all? Are you curious enough to want to go in for it?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to know what I'm working on.
Yeah, so be curious.
Of course, when I'm there, I'm totally, there's no question about it. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I know what I did last week on it. It's like.
And you can carry that
where we are in the project, I know what the project is. And then I get out of there, I don't know any of that. I'm like, wow, I was working at some kind of process thing. I've been, my most common recall in the last few months is these process dreams, which I talked to, they're just like what I did when work, or this or that. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about how that could be clothed, in that.
And yet you can carry that content here in this field if you want to. So as clear as you are when you're in there, you can be of it here also. It's a matter of being able to hold the brainwave frequencies while you're here in this field.
You bring an awakening consciousness.
And yes, and the more you do it, the more you go in for the content and bring the content here and hold the content here, the easier it gets. Yeah. To the point where you can really easily shift in for data. And like you were just saying, it comes through the mental field, through the knowing or awareness field, and it's not necessarily visual. So you can just close your eyes and the data's there. You say the first thing that comes into your field, the first thing that comes to mind. And then you just stay with it and follow it. It's a movement, it's an energy, it's a vibration, and you just sort of connect yourself to the vibration and ride the waves, and the data rises up. And it's not necessarily visual, although it can be.
Well, that might be a recall issue too, if you're always trying to recall imagery and maybe it's not what you should be trying to recall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, some of us are very visual, because the vision center is open. And so.
Yeah, but like I was saying, the astral, the dreamland type stuff, the imagery on this inner screen, so visual, but maybe I've had an experience that wasn't there. It was in that clear world, and maybe I'm using the wrong tool to try to recall the clear world.
The tool is always
The
the
astral
same.
techniques to recall the mental plane, you know, and they don't work.
The tool is always the same. The tool is your being, your awareness. And within these are various other tools that we can use, right? Our inner energy centers. Yeah, so.
What I'm saying is maybe I'm trying to grasp onto imagery where maybe I need to grasp onto something other than imagery.
Feeling, yes. Feeling. If you want to get the total package, you have to get the feeling. That means the vibration and the frequencies and the shift in frequencies and frequency patterns. That's the basis. Within that, the visuals come. Within that, the other senses of what things are come. But if you want the total package, yeah, you got to get into the feeling.
Yeah, and it's not just feeling. I don't know what adjective to use. Because feeling kind of implies emotion.
No, not emotion.
It's usually more of an astral thing, you know.
A feeling is a vibration.
So it's a higher sort of feeling, a mental type of feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's feeling.
Right.
It's tactile because you have a body. Yes.
Huh. So you're talking about trying to actually bring tactile information back.
It's going to be very tactile because you have a body. And so when that content is coming through, when you are in the feeling space, when you are in the vibratory experience, the energetic of the whole thing, you are experiencing that energetic through your whole being and biology as you are here in this field, because this is the point in which you're bringing it all through to your conscious daily state of awareness and physicality.
Yeah, because in these experiences, I am in some kind of body, you know, mental body of some sort. Not just a point of view, you know, like I would be in a soul travel type situation.
Well, the mental body is the soul field, but I know that we all cognize these things differently. Yeah.
Use a different thing for soul and mental and me are different things. But one's up beyond the other, which, you know, leads to me to even think about, well, if I have trouble making the jump from pulling from the astral to pulling from the mental, how much of a bigger jump is it to pull from the next layer up spiritual, you know, and how much even vaguer that is in terms of not being a TV screen image like the astral is, you know.
Right. Well, in the visual fields that we exist in now, and the visual fields we enter when we go into the quote dream fields, you know, all of this is going to be highly visual. You know, we're predominantly using our visual sense, and as human beings in particular, we're predominantly using our vision, next our hearing, next our sense of touch, next it's a toss up between taste and smell. You know, there's a hierarchy to how we generally, you know, use our senses, but the sight is number one. So the vision and the visual field will feed us the most information. And then look at other animals, it's very different. You know, for instance, and dogs are lupine beings. You know, the sense of smell is where they get their predominant information. You know, when they leave their sense, they're leaving letters to each other in the way that we write and read them. You know, I mean, and so things are done very differently. But anyway, yeah. So the physical and the astral dimensions 1 through 6, yeah, these are the visual fields. These are the manifest realms. Beyond this, we begin to go into the unmanifest. We begin to go into the causal. Yeah. that consciousness, those consciousnesses that are behind the architecture of the visual fields, or what I like to call the rides. That's sort of what I was alluding to when I was asking, just openly asking, where do the data streams come from? There is no reality out here. It's all it's a data stream. It's a film strip we're being fed, um, that's projecting, as the field all around us. So where do these data streams come from? I was sort of alluding to that, the architects and designers.
Yeah,
there is that level of reality, and I feel like I'm very associated with it. And I like to investigate and explore, beyond what I have to date and don't have many opportunities to, because how many people do we know we can sit down and have this conversation with, right? Without just being smacked down almost immediately.
We're told I need to find Christ, or
So I sort of wanted to talk about consciousness experiments today. Maybe we'll save that for next week. Ra is missing in action here. She was intending to show up, so I hope she's okay. And James, you were late.
I get my time mixed up as usual. I thought it was 8 o'clock tonight for some reason. I'm like, so that's my mistake. Just message.
Either next time I will, if you give me permission, I'm going to say, James,
yeah.
Have either of you run consciousness experiments?
I've been doing it with the HemiSync most of these past few days now that I've got my headphones and that set back up. And I've been doing experiments with that. And I was doing experiments with a jaw harp today. I broke it. I broke it. I literally just broke it. Yeah, I got a lot of vibrations in the streaming with that, but unfortunately, I broke the thing.
I want to ask two questions. One, what exactly is the experiment? And two, what is that thing?
It's a jaw harp. You would play it in your mouth and it vibrates. And you make a sound.
Bong, 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 bong.
And you change your tone in your voice box. You can change it. I can get it to sound like a didgeridoo vibrating at the beat. But I broke it. I broke it. I just literally just broke it for a come on.
I've never heard of that before. I want one of those. Where do you?
My brother used to play one of those.
I watched the shamans use it as well. It goes ding ding. You can put a rhythm and vibrations through your whole jaw. Your teeth and your jaw make the vibration. And you can ding 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 ding.
Will you tell me where you got that?
Amazon. That's a really cheap one.
Okay, just
Amazon. They call it jaw harps or Jew harps. But
say the word again, because you're saying it too fast for me to.
Sorry.
Originally, they called them Jew harps, but they're more politically correctly called jaw harps today.
Jaw harps.
Can you spell that?
Jaw. J-A-W. Jaw.
Okay.
Yeah, jaw harp. Yeah, no, get one, try that, and just very, very good vibrations through you.
Do it. I'm all over anything that helps me feel a vibration.
Yeah, I'm quite high after it. I'm honestly. I've been doing it for hours.
I started doing it ages ago when I would chant at home, and I have to tell you, I don't have a good voice, and especially a singing type voice, and it used to be a lot worse than what it is now. It seems some changes seem to have come about, but when I used to do spontaneous Om, just this super low whispered like Om would come through that I can like feel the vibration through my whole body. It's phenomenal. It sounds weird to me, but it makes the whole body vibrate. I've been doing that a lot lately, but that is even better.
What's good is doing but you put your fingers in your ears and go the vibration that comes up through me is amazing. So it is and I put it up and down the tones, and the vibration of my fingers in my ears, the sound is amazing when I do that. That's good.
That's called Brahmari. That was
Yeah, so it is.
breathing. That was one of the breathing practices I was going to teach everybody.
Yeah, I did that.
I don't have
I've been
to
doing that.
put my fingers in the ears to get the vibration, and so I generally don't, because that will make the vibration stronger in the head, and I want to feel it evenly through my whole body, and so I generally don't do the fingers in the ears. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, doing it in a bath's even better as well. You put your ears under the water and then go in a bath of water. That's brilliant. I've been doing that. That's brilliant. The sound's amazing.
I used to do that as a kid. So tying this into consciousness experiments, the first consciousness experiment I ran, this was between the years 2009 and 2013, which were my awakening years. That first consciousness experiment I did, I was wondering, after regularly having been going out of body twice a week, I wondered what I would have to do to get myself to the point where I could have a regular flow daily. I am avoiding saying projecting at will because it was never my will that allowed it, although my want very much was for it to happen more. So anyway, that's what the first consciousness experiment was about. And so I dove into my daily schedule and my eating, and when I stopped eating and what I couldn't eat. And, you know, just I found a few things to be highly critical to me being able to go out of body and carry that content of the experiences back with me into physical space. And that was getting sun every day, a certain amount of sun, maybe a half an hour of sun every day, drinking a certain amount of water every day, making sure my focus was on the life that I wanted to live and doing things I love to do. And, just really bringing that energy up very consistently in my daily life, letting that not be interrupted in any way, shape, or form, literally. Not doing anything I didn't want to do. That all seemed to be very important. And anyway, I sort of grafted that out and started the experiment. This is on the board. Still for anybody who wants to read it. And I would just simply report whether my criteria had been remained to, or if I did anything that broke that pattern I saw that was really, sort of supporting me being able to go out and again bring the content back into physical space. That was the important part. And then I would list the experiences that I had, or if I had no lucid dream or OBE. And yeah, so that was the first one I ran. And I noticed that when I stuck to, the things that I saw that were really allowing it, it really kicked up. I went from twice a week to 5 times a week. That was a huge increase. I didn't even expect anything that big. And that is, or may be, what inevitably led to my next 4 years, which were very, very different, and which I won't go into. But
rehash that a sec for me.
Yeah.
The big change was what specifically? Just that you kept
I increased the rate at which I was able to consciously go out of body and bring the data from those experiences back into physical space. I went from being able to do that twice a week to 5 times a week.
But the key was just for you is just adhering to that routine, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was going to add things as things came to me. But interestingly, only one other thing ever did. And that was being aware of what my questions were.
Well, that's probably very good.
That was the thing that really, I think, kicked it off over the top.
Yeah, I think that's probably,
Being aware of what my own questions were. Because when we're not aware of what our questions are, we're not aware that they're being answered in those additional frequency fields. And we're less likely to make the correlation and bring the information back with us. So yeah, that was the only additional thing that came to me. And it was a huge thing. But anyway, that was my first consciousness experiment. And yeah, I've been running consciousness experiments ever since. The experiment that you're doing with the sound and the vibration, what's the curiosity? What's the question? What are you trying to do? What's the experiment?
I'm trying to achieve the out of body state. I'm trying to achieve expanding my awareness and get to know and my connections. And just get to know myself.
To just get to the point where you can consciously have the experience and bring it back, right? And
have the experience, bring the information back, and just get to know my reality better. Because it's all concepts. I've got experiences, but not to that degree. So I want the experience just to know.
What is it? What's the idea? What's the idea behind the vibration being what is it? Okay, so I'm going to see if doing these vibrations helps me get any more conscious and additional frequency fields. Is that the basis of the experiment?
To achieve the experience, to achieve the body state, using the sounds, using vibrations and sounds. Because I love sound, and that's just kind of what I am. So I'm enjoying the hemisync.
I think you're going to have to structure it a little bit more, James.
I'm going to have to, yeah.
I'm
doing that now. I'm calming down with it now and just getting into a routine, a set routine that I'm going to do. I'm enjoying that, so I'll stick. I've got the full series. Like, it's not just one or two. I've got the whole thing, start to finish, right through the whole institute. So I'm getting that done, and I'm getting the experiences as it does work. I have to say. But I'm just kind of clicking out, as they call it. So I'm shifting my awareness, but I'm passing out and waking up, and passing out and waking up. I'm not going unconscious and then losing half an hour to an hour of time. That's what I'm getting just now. Last night, just meditating, I was managed to get a little jet black dot. When you talk about a black, trying to get your screen, I got a black dot, but it kept moving. I was trying to focus this black dot to get into this jet black dot in my awareness field. That's sitting right in front of me to focus on now. So the experience is coming. It's coming. It's right there. I'm reaching for it. It's right there. It's right there. So it's coming. But
do you know how to move yourself?
What?
Do you know how to move yourself when you see the black dot? Do you know how to move yourself closer to it or it closer to you?
I'm trying to focus on it. I'm just trying to intend to go into it. So I don't know how I used to do it. I'm just trying to intend to go into that dot to pass through it.
What happens?
Nothing. That was the first time I got that black dot last night. It just kept moving down, and I centered it. I tried and go in, but it then just disappeared and then come back, and move around and then disappear and come back. I couldn't get it to stabilise or go through it. I couldn't get it to do it. That's just the first time it happened, though. So I've no practice. I'll keep practicing. But if that's the right way, if it's intending to go through, it's the right way, then I'll stick to that.
you might try looking for a blue dot, or
I get purple little particles sometimes, purple ones, and sometimes little white ones come and go. But that's the first time I got a jet black one. That's the very first time I get jet black. But I normally get the purple particles.
huh.
So I get those.
Stay with the black dot.
The black dot's the first time. I recognise this as
the stars that flash in. Yeah, be aware of them. Be aware of where they are in the field and what hue they are. But like, don't try to look at them. Always keep your field of vision centered, and bring everything into center. If it's not in the center, it's going to be a distraction. So you can be aware of a bright light shining from over here, but don't try to turn and look at it. You'll screw yourself.
That's what I was doing with the little particles. I see them. I look at them. I try to bring them out. I try to focus on the particles as they come in. Try to focus on it. So I just keep straight ahead, just like, okay.
Keep your focus.
It comes in.
straight ahead and soften your gaze.
Right. Right. Okay.
Soften your gaze. And as you soften your gaze, you're going to be shifting your brainwave patterns through alpha. And if
I've been trying too hard then. I've been really focusing, trying to push it. So I just relax and just go, okay. Right. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Casey, concentrating on a point? Because that's never really worked for me. I've heard, I mean, I guess I've gotten some kind of results from it, but I know a lot of people focus on a flame or something else like that versus, I don't know, lost where I was going.
When you close your eyes and something presents, don't kick it away and try to make something else be there. So if something presents, that's what you work with.
Okay.
When the black dot appears, you're there. You are there. So hold that black dot. Hold that black dot. Soften your gaze, soften your gaze, soften your gaze, and you'll just notice it starts taking you over.
Okay.
Going through it. So what you have to do is match frequencies.
Right.
So don't stay in beta. Don't invoke your will. Don't redirect your attention. Don't deconstruct the field because you're trying to go or get something else or somewhere else. Work with what's there. Keep your vision center. Hold your vision center and soften your gaze. Just keep softening your gaze.
Yeah, I was doing the opposite. I was trying to push into it.
And then be aware, because through the shifts in brainwave patterns, the experience through your systems is going to begin altering. You're going to, for instance, feel sleepier, and you need to address this. So as you enter the sleepy feeling, soften your gaze. Let it go away. Just focus on softening the gaze and it will go away. You will become more clear, more alert, more single pointedly focused. And this is what's going to allow everything. Yeah, because already you're in the field. You're just not cognizing it yet. You're cognizing it from this visual display. But you can get yourself fully 3D surround sound in the field. Yeah, and that's what you want. But you also want to be able to hold that data while the brainwave patterns shift back into a predominant beta. So
That's the challenge.
knowing how to ride that shift in ultra slow motion so that you can get all of the information that you want is, yeah, it's important.
I'm so close. So close.
The trick almost is being
Oh, God.
lucid in the field. The trick is being lucid through the shift.
Yeah.
Being able to lucidly, consciously ride that shift in brainwave patterns. Yeah. And that's the vibration, what people call the vibrational state. And that's the state in which I am aware of myself in the multiple locations, the multiple fields where I just was literally all night long, all at once. Yeah. And you're going to have to decide from what point to what point, are you going to collect information from to bring here? What in that was most important to you? Yeah. Because there'll be so much. You won't be able to bring it all back. Well, I mean, you could, but, not likely.
It's 5 years from now.
Not likely. Something that happens for me a lot in my experiences, and I will say that once you have, because I was in an almost 4-year-long additional consciousness state, because my OBEs were near daily for 4 years. And again, OBE, lucid dream, pretty much the same thing in my understanding and way of experiencing, because well, I won't go into that again. Now when I dream, even if I'm not lucid in it, I'm very aware that I am. I'm very aware that the field is real. I am very aware that these are experiences I am having. And because of that, it makes me more apt to be able to bring the content back through. When you're thinking of dreams as unreality and not important and just flights of fancy, you're diminishing them. Your reason for bringing them back with you isn't important in any way, shape, or form. It was just a dream, who cares? So that mind construct really has to be gotten out of, and one way to do that is, by an awakening process, such as the one that I went through, which was, extensive. It went on for an ongoing length of time. It wasn't just an out-of-body experience here and there. Again, I was near daily for 4 years. And so that really was embedded deeply into my system. I'm not going to let go of that ever. I'm only going to work with it and expand upon it in every single way I possibly can. And that was going somewhere, but I can't remember where I was going with it. What were we saying? Ramble.
Can't keep the information here.
There was a point to all of that. What were we saying right before that?
We was talking about bringing it back, cognizing enough to bring it back, not losing your vibration.
Not what I was saying, what you guys were saying. What were you guys saying right before?
I don't know.
Yeah, see? Loss and continuity.
I was thinking of a question. Well, that's gone.
Talking about consciousness experiments. So
what other types? I'm just wondering what other types of conscious experiments you might propose, other than sounds or whatever. I'm kind of missing this little drum I had. As a kid, I had this little drum you could spin and it had 2 little beads hanging down, almost like earrings, and a little head, and you twist the shaft back and forth, and the little things that hit both sides of the drum, boom, 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 so you could keep twisting it.
Yeah, the Tibetan thing. But the consciousness experiment isn't that. You have to state what the consciousness experiment was.
So you're just talking about getting an idea for like a question you want to get answered or something like that.
Exactly.
That's been probably the most successful technique I've had, but
my question was,
you really have to will it.
What do I have to do in order to have more conscious OBEs? That was my question. The experiment is a question that you're going to attempt to get answered. If I set up these parameters, will it allow for more experience? So you have to have a question.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting to. The times that I've had success is when I really did have a serious curiosity about something I wanted answered. And
that's mandatory. That's the precursor for the experiment. And let me just say, my most recent experiment was about whether I needed food. So I was doing a detox, and 6 months into the detox, I was realizing how little food I actually needed now. And so the consciousness experiment was whether I could derive enough nutrition for my physical system from the sun and water alone, nearly alone. The next stop in course was fruit, which was all I was eating on the detox, was a fruit detox. So that was my most recent one. And all of that was about being able to be more aware. And if my question was, is have I been readapted? Has this physical structure been readapted? And if so, where am I in the adaptation stage? So what is your experiment, James? What is the question? What is the curiosity? What that you're attempting to have answered?
What am I? Just what am I?
You're
Really,
gonna have to. You're gonna.
I just sit down. I mean, 'cause my reality's been blown up. I just want to know what am I?
You're gonna have to get more specific.
More specific.
You don't like to do it because you like to go out too far out, but that's not going to let you cognize it. Here's
So where would be a good starting point then?
Yeah, you're going to have to come back down to earth one, and expanding out into the next harmonic over into the astral fields would be the most ideal for you. If you go too far out, it's too vague. It's too, I don't know if that's real or not. It's too it's too vague. So you have to ask something very specific. Your curiosity about it has to be enormous. You have to want to know, because you're going to have to stick to a daily course of action, in which you're going to log and document in a scientific manner. And so that you can look at the data over a period of time and see if there's any determination that can be made based on it.
Well, I want out of my body. I want to experience myself beyond this physical constraint. So that'll be up one. Yeah. Beyond this, I'm sick of it. So I want to experience beyond it now. I want to experience that now. Well, Steve, I do get them. If I did the bodies when I was a young boy, floating about in my room and stuff, floating into my skill, and precognitive dreams and stuff like that, I've already had them, but not under my control. It's just my experience are mostly spontaneous. Mm-hmm. Just to into the state and just to experience. That's really.
Well, who am I is the basic question. That's the fundamental question. But within that very wide and broad context, you're going to have to ask a more specific question. You're going to have to get more specific.
Help me out. Help me out with my question. Which means more Pacific and more, I don't know. That's just in my mind. I don't know. I'm just ready to fly off.
You're getting the information right now. What is it you want to know more specifically?
I don't know, what can I do?
Are you looking for something simpler is what I'm thinking?
Yeah, I just want to open up. I just want to open up. What am I? I mean, what am I as a consciousness? Because I'm not human, so what is it? That's what am I?
What I was going to say, I guess I said it before too, is that the few times I've had a real curiosity about something that I really wanted to know, I was shown it eventually. If it's something I could keep in my head for 2 or 3 days, and it was something semi-specific, I was then shown it. And like I brought the experience before, I wanted to see what it looked like through a cat's eyes. I wanted to see the reality of watching dreamers dream, and I was shown both of those. And there's a couple other instances like that. The things that were stuck in my head for 3 or 4 days, and I just thought about them as, what would it be like to watch a dreamer dream? Do they really project it out in front of them like it's been described? And finally, I was shown that. I was shown and I always talk about this perpendicular from a distance type view, the hidden observer. I was shown from a distance, like perpendicular to these people on their ways and their dreams, literally projecting their dreams out in front of them. So they're in more or less a area with few objects that are really there, but they're kind of projecting this whole structure in front of them. And it's really not, and they're kind of like headlights on a car almost, you know, and I was able to watch that happen for a while. And another time, you know, I got to see through a cat's eyes, you know, whether these were simply dreams or what, you know, you could always dismiss stuff like that. But the time I've had the most success is when I've kept something in my head for 2 or 3 days that I was really curious about. And it was something small and graspable like that, you know, not just a big ontological question about, you know, what is God and who am I, where am I, you know,
Yeah,
but more or less a smaller nibble, something concrete that I could grab and think about, you know, how does a cat see? You know, what is it like through my cat's eyes? You know,
what are you curious about? Yes. And I'm usually answered almost immediately. I remember when I was 7 years old, I wondered what it felt like to be a man. And I immediately got the experience in my body. It was, wow. I'm like, oh, cool. That's why they like it so much. But yes, smaller questions, big curiosities. What would be fun? What is something that you don't experience that you would like to know what it's like to experience? And yeah, starting that way would be great.
So would I just go back to my wanting to meet my galactic self part? Because that would come under the same. That would come under the same thing.
That was the data I was getting, that you
That's,
were getting, that you were being fed. You know, that's what you want to know.
It's the same question. Just probably wasn't specific enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, you know, you have to be very aware of what it is that you want to know, what your question is. And the question can have various parts.
Yeah, Tom spoke about that. You have to be really specific what you're asking. You can't just go, you get all sorts flying at you. So you have to be quite straight. Yeah, okay.
You won't even realize that your question has been answered. Yeah.
Oh.
So be as specific as you can about it.
Right. Targets. You need your target. Right. Okay.
Is my galactic counterpart male or female? You know, start with, you know, start getting the information. Is my galactic counterpart connecting with me? How does my galactic counterpart connect with me? What is the process? If you watch some of our channeling practices, you'll get some of this information through me, because it's questions I ask and want to know. You know?
It's the tones mostly I'm getting. Those tones are flying into my ears. They started since going to this channel. Since I started with you, that's when they started. it's continued. I can only take it as my galactic part. You know, I think.
To me, I would suggest, you know, not doing something so grandiose, but doing something small, or, you know, something more trivial like I was doing. You know.
Well, that probably is small to James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was chasing the source of everything.
It's the closest thing to home. Yeah.
I blew up there.
Small but amazing. Not small as in unimportant, but small. And that is maybe a baby step for him, as grand as it is. You know, it's the closest thing to home. Yeah. Our closest connecting link or point.
Something bite-sized, not something so grandiose that it'd take a lifetime to figure out.
It's fun to do the, you know, more physical things, to know what it's like, you know, for this person to be. One time I wondered, because everybody was making this big difference between an OBE and a lucid dream, I was wondering, what are other people's lucid dreams like? You know, why are they discerning this very large difference? And that very night I was shown how their lucid dreams are. And I was like, well, no wonder they're making there be such a big distinction. My lucid dreams were not like that. And although I am not remembering right now exactly what the distinction or differences was, I just knew it was an immense difference. That's not what I'm experiencing in what I call a lucid dream. Yeah. Um, so, and that's when I understood, that there's different ways to pattern the awareness in order to experience things in very different ways. And that's why when I say lucid dream, it can mean a very different thing than when somebody else is saying lucid dream. And that's okay. They're experiencing it that way, and I'm experiencing it this way. There's nothing wrong in that. So yeah, any questions you have, curiosities you have, ask, and then go in and attempt to bring the data back. Because anytime you ask, it's answered.
We just don't realise you get answered so quickly. We don't realise, do we?
Yeah, it happens fast. As soon as you ask, it's usually answered. But the energy behind the asking needs to be genuine and sincere at a certain, it can't be lukewarm. You have to really want to know. There has to be some fun and like when I wondered what it felt like to be a man. Woo, that was fun.
I get that I'm a female at that level. It's interesting.
I was raised by my dad in a house full of boys, and so it was. And my dad was from a generation where, in a male-dominated world, it was superior to be a man, and so it was a natural curiosity. What's it like to be a man? Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. These things are really fun.
Yeah, rather than something you can answer instantly, it's almost nice to have something that you need to be shown, because then it'll happen in a dream, and that's kind of a neat process too. Like the example I was giving, it was something I really had to be shown, and I just kept the intent up for a few days, and eventually the dream happened.
Yeah. Well, eventually it happened in a way in which you were able to bring back the data. It was probably happening right from that moment forward. It took that long for you to get the data back. Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Everything's rather spontaneous from their end of the equation.
Well, like I was saying about, doing the flip coin thing, and I'm starting
to takes time and hours.
Starting to know what the coin says before I look at it, and
yeah,
and I know how that is with other, mediumship.
So I highly suggest consciousness experiments. They help keep you in the game, along with interacting with others of us, experimenting and growing as a group, doing things together, making sure that every day has some content in it that is consciousness related, and some of us need more content, James, me, and other people. My whole day and night is not consciousness. I'm not going to be happy.
Why are we so controlled by the bodies? Why is that has so much power over us like that? No. Because it's a construct and conscious. I don't see why we can't just bypass that. I really don't. I don't see why it should hold consciousness so much. Just discard it.
What's the sense of coming into the experience if you're just
I've had the experience. I've done the human thing. Okay.
No, I understand the question, believe me. Spending all your crying. No, you have to go right through it.
Yeah.
You have to go through it. Yes, because you have to understand that this is a community. It's a community of conscious beings, of consciousness cells. And some of us are here to actually evolve that. When we're talking about ascending and bringing the physical body with us, we're talking about not ascending just our own, but carrying enough for the consciousness cells that compose what we call bodies to uplift them also, not it, them.
I just get ones and zeros. It's just what ones and zeros. I don't put any connection into the body's inside. I'm not observing inside me, so as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing in there.
There
You know what I
is.
mean?
There is.
Yeah.
When you get to the point where you're realizing that the physicality part is an illusion, then, and you begin to see that this is just a visual field, a visual appearance, then you'll be able to, if you want to, you'll be able to see the independent particles that are composing the body. And at a certain point, I was able to shift into, I could isolate one of the cells and go right inside of it. And they're people just like we are. And every one of them, they're a different type of consciousness. They're a different type of being, that specialize in forming, material worlds, visual fields. But they're beings, they're alive. There's nothing that's visual that isn't fundamentally consciousness. You, although you are not the body, you're the consciousness animating the body, and that part of you is invisible, but this is the part that everybody sees. Same thing with each and every cell that composes the body. They also are not their visual appearance. They're the consciousness that's being evidenced by that visual appearance, just as you are. Your body is a body of consciousness. Consciousness cells. Highly specialized consciousness cells.
See, I understand all reality is consciousness. Everything's consciousness. I just didn't put anything in. I thought that was just constructed for us to use. I didn't put anything into
Consciousness
it. Sorry, guys.
Consciousness composes everything, even what we call the body. Consciousness composes it all. There is nothing that is not consciousness.
So you have consciousness with free will, us, and you have constructs of consciousness, a tree or a body. That's why I looked at it. I just looked at it as constructs, things I would just, I've never put any.
Those constructs are composed of consciousness. Consciousness is all there is. Consciousness is all there is to create with. Consciousness constructs and composes the constructs. A tree is a type of consciousness. The independent cells that compose the body of the tree are also consciousness. We would call them elemental consciousness. And bringing up that elemental consciousness with us is an important part of what some of us are here to do, myself included.
Okay.
This is a Christ consciousness thing. This comes from, as you know, all of the idea of ascension is Christ consciousness agenda. Yeah.
So I need to work on just connecting more with things.
As consciousness.
As conscious.
You can connect with the whole of your body as a consciousness, and you can connect with the independent cells that compose the body as a consciousness. Yes, consciousness to consciousness.
Okay. I've just had such a clinical view through these years. It's just been very clinical, separate and detached. That's all. I'm just trying to adjust. Because I'm a feeler. I've never had that. I'm trying to engage, but I don't, because my understanding is so clinical, it's hard for me to get the feeling to attach. I've been struggling to.
First, there is a mountain.
Yeah.
Then there is no mountain. Then there is.
I'm at the no mountain part.
Yes. Yes. Just know where you are in the process and see that the process is not complete yet, so that you're not ending there, so that you don't stop yourself there. Just
no, I won't stop until I've connected. I never expanded up, and then I'll probably connect back in again. I'm aware of that. I've got to go these steps. I just getting it. Nothing's like I need to. I'm like in the middle stage.
In the end stage, it's not a meat body anymore. It's
No.
consciousness.
Hmm.
It's consciousness.
I'll get there.
This is all there is. Yes. And Yana was my practice too. Neti neti, not the body, not the breath, not the mind, not the bliss. That was my process as well. So that's what brought me through. And I'm not all the way through. I'm just at the very beginning baby stages of coming through. It's consciousness, and experiencing it as consciousness and communicating with it, with them. Yeah, it's an extraordinary experience. And this is what Anton and I have been talking about with the palm stone, speaking to the stone.
I've been doing that with mine, my little.
Communicating to the stone your intent on how you wish to use it for recall, increasing awareness, so that the stone can agree to participate in that energy dynamic with you in a way that actually brings recall, in a way that actually brings more awareness. Yeah. And it's fun because you're not interacting with an inanimate object anymore. It's a friend. It's a consciousness, and it's a friend, and it's working with you. It's helping you. It's an enjoyable, delightful experience. And when we begin interacting, with everyone and everything that way, everything changes. Everything changes. Boundaries come down. Territories come down. The urge to fight or keep for yourself while others go without goes away. You begin to, work more as a community with everyone and everything, literally. It takes practice because we've been in the dog eat dog mindset for so long.
Yeah, it takes a bit to change your perspective. It just takes time to just keep working with it until it changes.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
You just open to the idea. See if you can feel the energy of the stone.
I've been trying that for the past week or so with it. It's with me all the time. It's in my pocket with me all the time. I take it everywhere. I'm trying to do that. Trying to bring awareness. And I think just because my mind's been so just like clinical, I suppose. If I can change that part, I should connect up. When I start seeing it differently, I should change it.
Everything will change because they're higher dimensional ideas, and what you're doing literally is bringing the higher dimensions into the body as you're doing this. So you wanted to practice, Anton? There you go. Connect with your stones.
Connect with the stone and get an actual connection with the object.
Actual, tangible, energetic, real experience with the stones. Communicate with the stones. See if you can pick up on anything the stone may be relaying to you. Just expand any experience that you've had thus far. Go beyond where you've ever gone before. Right here in this field. This is the main visual field we have to work with. Yeah, so don't put all the attention on trying to bring back the data from the dream fields. Work with this dream field, and that's what triggers the whole thing. Again, because you're no longer invoking a separation, reality and dream, or less real and more real, or in whichever way you tend to do it. They become synonymous, equivalents, all falling together into a 0 point, a singularity. And you have greater access in that. greater access to information, greater access to additional fields. It all starts right there in your hot little hands.